recently upgraded from my beginner sport bike, which was a Ninja 400, up to this 600. This is a ZX-6R. And today I wanted to share 5 things with you that you should expect when you're jumping from your beginner sport bike up to a bigger super sport. Let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to notice as soon as you throw a leg over a 600 is how different the ergonomics are compared to most beginner sport bikes. I had a Ninja 400, and I know the CBR 500, I assume the 300, I haven't ridden one, but like the R3, all have pretty relaxed ergonomics in comparison to any super sport, really. They do have clip-ons, but they have risers, right? I think they're called risers, where it lifts up the bar a couple inches or something so that you're a little bit more upright. Most super sports are not going to have those kind of ergonomics, though. With these, the seat is high, the bars are low. Another cool Porsche. With these, the seat is high, the bars are low, your feet are going to be high up because the pegs are high. You're a lot more squished on one of these than you are. I don't know if squished is the right word, because these bikes are quite a bit physically larger, but more crumpled up on one of these than you are on a beginner bike. The next thing you're going to pretty quickly notice is the weight and size of the bike. My Ninja 400 was, I think, 360 pounds wet stock, whereas this ZX-6R, I think, is about 430, pushing 440 if you have ABS. I do not. Again, that's stock. So quite a bit heavier. Not unwieldy by any stretch of the imagination. It's not some 800-pound bagger or something, but you are going to notice that weight. And for me, I think it's kind of a good thing, to be honest. I feel a lot more planted in corners and stuff like that, but mileage may vary. The bike is going to require more maneuvering to enter into a corner and stuff like that, or more coercion to get it to lean over. Additionally, the size of the bike is physically larger. Having ridden this and then hopping back on the 400 before I sold it, it kind of felt a bit like a toy. It was just small physically. This thing, the tank is so much wider, so you can hook your legs underneath it. The bike is physically longer and taller, and it does just feel more substantial. Once you actually start up the bike and get it moving, you're going to pretty quickly realize how different the power of a super sport, even a 600, really is. I know a common complaint you'll hear online from more experienced riders and people who've ridden bigger bikes than 600s is how they're pretty gutless down low. Which, yeah, when you're comparing a 600 to a 1000, for example, it's a lot less torque lower down in the RPMs. That's generally the characteristics of an inline 4. But when you're coming from something, say, like a Ninja 400, even lower in the RPM, this has substantially more torque than a Ninja 400 does. So I don't think you're really going to have much of a complaint in that regard. As soon as you start twisting the throttle, it's just kind of there in comparison to a Ninja 400. I understand bigger bikes or twins, triples that are larger in displacement are going to feel quite a bit different than this, but I'm talking in comparison to a beginner sport bike, this is going to feel a lot more powerful, especially once you start to get higher up in the RPMs. I bought this bike new, so I didn't really rip on it too hard for the first 600 miles. Did the break-in oil change, and I've put a little over 100 miles on it since then, and in that last 100 miles it does open up higher up in the RPMs for sure. Once you actually decide to pick up a super sport, you're going to very quickly realize how much more expensive the cost of ownership and cost of insurance is compared to your beginner sport bikes. This is one of the reasons I highly recommend shopping insurance quotes before you decide on which bike you want to buy. I know I had to shop around a few different companies. I had Progressive since I started riding, and their prices were fairly reasonable when I had my Ninja 400 and with my Triumph. But when I wanted to upgrade to a ZX-6, I think they quoted me for the same coverage I had on my Ninja 400, which I was paying, I don't know, a few $100 a year for full coverage. They wanted, I think, over $4,000 a year to insure this bike. So I jumped ship, and now I have Dairyland, which it was still quite a big step up in insurance. I think I'm paying $900 a year now for this bike. I'm 25 for context, so younger guy, definitely gonna pay more in insurance. But even on top of insurance, I mean, just cost of ownership is gonna be more. Maintenance is gonna be more expensive. You're gonna burn through tires quicker. You know, it takes more oil. There's 2 additional spark plugs, you know, stuff like that. And even just on a day-to-day basis, my Ninja 400 would run on 87 octane. This requires premium. So pretty much every step along the way, you're going to be paying more. The last thing I think you're going to notice is how much more attention these bikes tend to get. I don't know if it's just because it's that traditional, you know, inline 4 sound as you approach, but I much more frequently get, you know, people signaling for me to rev the bike and stuff like that. I've had a lot more people come up to me at gas stations. That's not to say I didn't have any kind of interactions with people on my Ninja 400, but it does tend to be a lot more frequent on this bike. And that sums up my list for the 5 things you're going to notice upgrading from your beginner sport bike up to a super sport like a 600. Thanks for watching, and if you're someone else who has recently or not so recently upgraded from a beginner sport bike up to a super sport and have some more input to add, feel free to drop it in the comments. Or if you're considering upgrading and have any more specific questions, again, feel free to drop it in the comments and I'll be happy to answer. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you all next time.